The sun had barely risen when Elijah Carter stepped onto the porch of his newly restored farmhouse nestled on 20 acres of rural Virginia land. The early morning mist clung to the trees like a secret, and the dew glistened on the grass. It was a property he had purchased quietly a year ago with no press release. No ceremony, just a man reconnecting with the roots he'd grown up trying to escape. He liked it that way. Private. Peaceful. His sanctuary from the madness of Washington. He wore simple clothes, dark jeans, a fitted gray sweatshirt, and a baseball cap pulled low. To the neighbors, he looked like any other black man trying to mind his business. But Elijah Carter was anything but ordinary. He was the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the highest-ranking law enforcement officer in the United States, and one of the most powerful figures in the intelligence community. Few people outside the Bureau even knew what he looked like off the clock. That morning, he was walking the tree line along the fence, examining a weak spot where deer had trampled the mesh. He didn't hear the squad car roll up the dirt road. Behind him, "Hey, you there, freeze." The voice was sharp, cutting through the quiet like a buzzsaw. Elijah turned, confused. 2 uniformed deputies were standing by their cruiser, hands resting on their holsters. Their faces were tense, chests puffed. One had already unclipped the retention strap on his sidearm. "What's the problem, officers?" Elijah asked calmly. "We got a call about a suspicious individual trespassing on private property," said the taller one, a man with pale skin and a shaved head. His tone was accusatory, not inquisitive. "That you?" Elijah blinked. "This is my property." The second deputy, a younger man with nervous energy, stepped forward. "We need to see ID now." Elijah reached slowly into his back pocket. "I'll cooperate, but I'd like to know the reason for this." "Stop." "We just told you." The first officer snapped. "You're loitering and trespassing on a property that doesn't belong to you. And people don't like when someone's poking around their land out here, especially someone who look familiar." The pause was telling. Elisha handed them his wallet and calmly said, "Check the name." The officer flipped through the ID and paused, his brows furrowed. "This some kind of joke?" "No joke." The younger deputy leaned in to look at the badge tucked inside Elijah's wallet. His face went white. There, unmistakably, was the federal badge of the director of the FBI, complete with security clearance coding and biometric ID. His photo matched. His name, Elijah J. Carter, official, real. Immediate silence followed. The first officer swallowed hard. "You're the Director Carter?" Elijah gave a polite smile, tight-lipped. "Yes, and you're both trespassing on my land. Care to explain that?" The wind picked up slightly, blowing through the trees like a warning whisper. The deputy stammered. "We're sorry, sir. We didn't know you didn't ask," Elijah cut in, voice now carrying the calm, cold authority of a man used to commanding rooms full of intelligence officers, senators, and national security briefings. "You saw a black man walking near a fence and assumed he didn't belong?" Neither deputy could meet his eyes. He had no probable cause, no verification. "We're about 30 seconds from drawing your weapons on a federal official standing on his own land." The older officer shifted uncomfortably, trying to regain composure. "We had a call, sir, and protocol requires confirmation before escalation. Something the Bureau emphasizes heavily. Perhaps you missed that lesson in your training." They didn't answer. "Want your badge numbers." Now, their hands moved slowly. No one spoke. Elijah took out his phone and snapped photos of them, their car, and the license plate. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Power didn't shout. It whispered with purpose. He tapped out a quick message to the Bureau's office. "Of professional responsibility? This will be reviewed at the DOJ," he said finally. "Not because I was offended personally, but because this happens to thousands of people who don't have the title I do. And if this is how you conduct yourselves, you're not fit to wear that uniform." The officers offered weak apologies. One tried to shake his hand. Elijah didn't respond. He simply turned and walked back toward the house, leaving them frozen, humiliated and terrified. Later that evening, the incident had already reached the news cycle. It exploded online. FBI director mistaken for trespasser by local police. Video from Elijah's security cameras showed everything. By the next morning, national headlines screamed of racial profiling, excessive suspicion, and misconduct. The department that employed the deputies scrambled to apologize, releasing a public statement about reviewing policies and committing to better training. But the conversation had already shifted. It wasn't about just two deputies. And a misunderstanding it was about how systemic bias didn't care about status or power. If the director of the FBI could be targeted in broad daylight for walking on his own property, what did that mean for the everyday black men who couldn't flash a badge to protect themselves? Elijah gave no press conference. He didn't need. 2. The footage spoke for itself. Behind closed doors, he pushed for changes, federal-level reforms, and local police accountability, proved racial bias training, mandatory de-escalation certification. In the quiet of his farmhouse, where birds chirped and the trees swayed gently, he sat on the porch and sipped his coffee. The morning mist had lifted. The air was clean again. But the weight of what happened, what could have happened, stayed heavy. He thought about his father, a man who'd been pulled over for fitting the description too many times to count. He thought about the agents of color under his command and how every one of them carried stories like this. And then he thought about the men who stopped him, how close they'd come to making a fatal mistake. Because they didn't see the director of the FBI. They saw a black man. For them, that was enough. Ask ChatGPT.